Welcome to The Secret Truth. I have with me Barr McClellan, and he's written a book by the title of Blood, Money, and Power. And we're presently at the JFK conference in Dallas, Texas, 2016. Welcome to my program, Barr McClellan.
Surely good to be here. Thank you.
Well, I've seen you a couple of years in the past, I think, but this is the first time I've had a sit-down interview with you. And you go all the way back to the Ed Clark law firm. Tell us a little bit about some of those experiences that you had while you were working there.
Well, there's no way to summarize those experiences. It was a whole experience is probably the best way to describe it. Lots went on. I mean, it was a total law firm. It could do anything. We did anything. It was a perfect banana republic that we were able to manage right out of Austin.
Right. I think Ed Clark finally wound up as ambassador to Australia during that period somewhere.
That's right. He was ambassador to Australia.
LBJ was in power.
Yeah, and LBJ was in power, and he was over there. Edward was over there when would that have been? 70s, early 70s, early 60s even. Yeah, but he was over there for a couple of years.
Right. Well, we know early on, Robert Caro wrote a book, several biographies. Early on in '48, I think LBJ. There's indications and facts there that he had a fixed election. Is that?
Yeah.
I think he was running against Coke Stevenson at the time.
The big election, right? The stolen election.
Right. Later on, when did you first join the Ed Clark Law Firm? What year would that be?
I joined him in '64, right there.
'64. Okay. Now, I flew back on a plane when I was in the Army, okay, on one of LBJ's planes with all the cooks and bottle washers one year. It was Christmas of 1963, and that was quite an experience there. Now, what have you been speaking about here, and to this relate somewhat some of your experiences here at the conference?
Well, the main thing I was about my earlier book on Johnson and how Clark ran the city and all the plain and simple crimes they committed in order to keep themselves in power and to get more power.
Right.
Got to know them really well. I mean, I was in the middle of stuff, and thought I was under an attorney-client privilege and couldn't say anything. But we went to Fifth City a couple of years later, and that got to be pretty rough. And this was going on, though, over about a 10-year period. I was with him, full partner. His personal lawyer, and this was on a bonus he wanted for his work in the assassination of John Kennedy. It's the old way of doing the legal business. You do a great service, you know you've done a great service, and you'd get paid. And if they didn't pay you, it'd get ugly. And Clark did know how to get ugly. Well, he didn't get paid by Exxon. I took him over to get him a well in the middle of East Texas field, and they wouldn't give it to him. So he got ugly. Exxon had to blow down the King Ranch, huge project, and he couldn't do it. Yeah. He couldn't do it, so we took him to court there, and he finally capitulated, and Clark got what he was looking for, which was a bonus worth millions. As far as I know, it's still there. I couldn't believe it had happened, but I did drive by one day a few years later. There was his oil well pumping away right in the middle of the East Texas field.
Oh, my God.
you talk about making money.
Yeah.
That's the only bonus known of in the whole assassination.
Well, that oil group has been really dominant in Texas, is it not? And they're still out of the Houston area.
Oh, yeah, they're still there.
The Bushes and all those families like that.
Well, they're starting this side shots, and business is good.
Some of my relatives were the Flatos, and they came over from Germany with the Klaybergs.
No way.
Yeah, early on.
I mean, this was way back.
Yeah, so, and then we've got kinship to the Shriner family in Kerrville.
That's another big one.
One of my. So we go back a ways, and I know. Where do you think we should go now with this information? I know you've written this book and so forth. And are we out to try to teach the younger people about the power structure of what was in the past and try to do a better thing in the future?
Well, that's a good way to put it. We really are.
Yeah.
But I've compared it to the Oresteia, the old Greek play, where one family was murdering another one, and they finally said, "Stop it! You know, vengeance is over. We don't need to drive Johnson into the ground. What we really need to do is go forward, really in peace, law and order." And there's a lot of talk about what to do. I mean, you raised a very good question. And some people, I mean, they want to take Lyndon Johnson's name off the library and everything else, but that may be a little more drastic than we needed. And the great lesson, I think, comes out of that old Greek play.
Well, yeah, I think the study for our younger people of this, of the history there, is important because it gets back to men and their greed and their search for power, does it not?
Oh, it does indeed. I mean,
isn't that the Johnson history or the lesson, maybe?
It's incredible how he could get money wherever it was and wherever it wasn't. I mean, some people don't even know about Gold House, which was a mine in New Mexico that he took over.
Oh, really? Really?
I mean, they're just everything he could. But he did well. He left a lot of money.
Is it true that Bobby Baker was going to be indicted shortly before the assassination, and maybe LBJ might have been part of that, or what?
That was
part of the problem. Is there truth to that?
There is a lot of truth to that. And I've read Bobby Baker's living history, and it's almost hilarious if you go and read it. But the underlying greed that was here, and do anything, if you know what's really going on, and you can read these oral histories and pick it up, although you got to read some of it outside the histories. You got to know them.
Yeah, you got to think outside the box in any of these situations, don't you?
Exactly.
I mean, there's the university boxes that they teach us of political science, but there's more than that to it, isn't there?
It really is.
A lot more.
And the individuals, once you get to know them, like some things, like one thing that's come out about Lyndon Johnson is he was a member of the Christadelphia Church. And if you haven't heard of it, don't be surprised. Not too many have. But they believed that the end of the world was coming. And when you got a guy who can put his finger on the red button,
oh my gosh,
you didn't want him.
Oh, I see the connection there. Well, you know, the young people today are looking, and the newly elected president-elect Trump is bringing forth a torch of hope, so much hope. And what are some of your comments on this recent election? What would be your comments on that?
Well, I think the main thing is what you've already said, and that was a great deal of hope is coming there. But I think Trump is basically a very honest guy and a very decent guy. I don't worry too much about his being in there to get all the money he can out of the government. I mean, he's got plenty of money. But what he wants is for people to do really what he did. And the guy is just decent. I mean, he doesn't smoke, doesn't let his kids smoke, doesn't drink.
That's right. Well, I think there were 3 rules that in a recent interview with his children, he didn't want them to drink, do drugs, or have tattoos.
Exactly.
I mean, are those pretty good rules? I think they are.
And they're pretty.
I don't know.
No, they're pretty funny.
I'm not knocking people with tattoos now.
I understand. Be nice to tattoos.
But I mean, that's a personal decision too out there, I guess, and it's become a fad, I guess.
Well, but I think he's going to do a good job. I think he wants to do a good job, and we'll see. We had speakers today that touched on the subject, and it's moving right along. I mean, he's getting the job done. He knows how to fire people.
Oh gosh, yeah, you're fired. But I think he's had some problems, business problems, because of at the amount of business that he does. You're going to have some ethical issues there. But I think he wants to leave a legacy that he was instrumentally in trying to do the right thing for this country.
I really believe that. I think
well, deep down, he's wanting to end his life with a legacy of doing the right thing.
Yeah, I mean,
for the country.
I don't know what it proves by his saying he's not going to take a salary. I mean, the salary we have for the president is a big amount of money.
And then he has that Trump Tower across the street, or that Trump Hotel in the old post office.
Right there in Washington.
Yeah, right. And he said, well, if I don't win the White House, I'll be across the street. And some people have, expressed the opinion that he may spend more time in New York than Washington. Have you heard things like that?
I've heard that, yeah. He likes home. He's got him a nice home there. He's got a penthouse, 4 floors or
big
something.
Building, 2 floors, I think, in that building. So, So we've got to get America back to work. Don't we have to try to revitalize the economy?
I think that's really true. I think he knows it too, and
Yes.
he'll be different because he'll bring money, salaries, jobs.
Well, tax cuts
back.
maybe for that lower income group. They need it.
They really
we need the
need
lower
it.
income, and that it would be even better than a minimum wage in a way.
It would be.
See what I mean?
And right when
Give them
Obama,
everything they make is to the bottom line.
he should increase Social Security just a touch.
Yes.
Withhold a little bit less.
Right.
And start making those payments that they get.
Right. Exactly.
Quicker.
Trying to. Well, I mean,
Give us a boost.
Right. Give us a boost. Someone expressed the opinion that at the end of the Bill Clinton administration, they used some kind of hot shot or whatever, hot book accounting to transfer money out of the Social Security fund into the general fund. Is there any?
Oh, that's so
and then
true.
that made it look like it was a balanced budget or something.
And they were getting a little more money out to the wage
Are
earner.
we seeing a hocus pocus here of our finances and economy? The real truth about our economy?
Well, we're seeing some accounting going on.
Right.
I'm not sure what it was.
It's really inventive, creative accounting, right?
It's very much. And all it takes is a stroke of the pen, so you don't have to go
It's
to
a stroke
Congress
of a
for that
pen.
one.
I haven't. What I fear a little bit on the upcoming Trump administration or some of the higher officials is there seems to be a lot of Goldman Sachs people around there. You know.
I don't know.
There are a lot of people there that are wanting to top positions. And so I think he's got to be careful,
He really does. I don't think he's made any decisions yet, but on the banking side of the economy, he's got to do something. I haven't heard it yet. In fact, I was talking to a fellow today about it who would know, and he said it's still developing.
Right. Now, on this conference, getting back to the JFK conference, what has impressed you of the conference as far as other speakers and other authors of other books? Is there anything that's really impressed you?
It's been a real good conference, I can say that. They've had some new material come out that is really and truly brand new, and it is very compelling. But I think we've reached a point, I know I have, where we're past the question, is it a conspiracy or not? That's answered.
Right,
There's no question it's a conspiracy.
So we're not conspiracy nuts anymore, right?
Right. The ones who deny it are the nuts.
To conspiracy scholars. You know what I mean?
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, conspiracy scholars. Yeah. A friend of mine coined that term, Eric Samuelson, years ago in the 90s, in 1990. And so we started calling ourselves conspiracy scholars. I don't know how much scholars, but we tried to get to the truth here,
Well, that's it. And there are two real points there, I think. One is a conspiracy is there. There's no question about it. 70% of America.
And they do conspire for power and money, and that's a fact, isn't it?
And there are 10% that say there was no conspiracy, and they're just not persuasive. They've had over 50 years and haven't been able to make their case.
Right.
So I'd say we've reached a turning point. And the other thing is, as far as the timeline goes, is 100th birthday is coming up for John Kennedy.
Oh, is that right?
It's going to be on May 29.
Oh, okay.
And I think a lot of thinking is going into honoring him.
I see.
They've been giving LBJ a lot of credit that he doesn't deserve.
Right.
And the more credit they give him, though, the more they diminish John Kennedy.
Right.
And John Kennedy's been taking it on the chin. When my book came out, a lot of Kennedy people called me or came in touch with me and wanted to help.
I say appreciative of your work and your writings.
Well, the thing, too, the way I treated it, is they entrusted me to really serve their interests.
I see.
I don't want to call it interest in terms of anything in money, but at least in the reputation. The honors due John Kennedy.
I see.
And he is due plenty of honor still. He was at a critical point in our history. And he really did a good job. And he
was trying to bring us out of the war. Establish a better financial issuance of different instruments directly from the Treasury, I should say. He favored more issues directly from the federal government through the Treasury versus the Fed creation.
Well, he wanted to help the economy. I think a president will do that. He was getting that started. We were having a little bit of trouble at the time.
Right.
Civil rights was huge. I mean, it hadn't really come out in the open like it was going to, but it was a growing issue, and he was riding herd on all of them. So I can't see any reason why he has to be run down, but that's what's happening. Well, I know why he's being run down, so LBJ looks better. Right. And hey, it ain't right. It just is not right. I guess if kids are hearing that, I better not say ain't.
My gosh. The name comes up at times, Carlos Marcello. What connection did he have to this JFK thing? Was there? I know he was deported twice from the country by the Kennedys or something.
Well,
maybe once deported unofficially. I don't know.
It was pretty rough. He felt insulted. I guess he should. He was
right.
cold on a beach. But yeah, he's coming into the picture big.
Well, that's the New Orleans connection. See,
that's the New Orleans connection.
Judith Barry Baker was there in New Orleans.
But to carry it one step further.
Okay.
I had a fella come see me after my book was out saying he was John Kennedy's son.
Okay.
He was the son without benefit of clergy, shall we put it. And he could tell me about his family in Eagle Pass.
Really?
Who had worked with the mafia. In fact, they had a bank, the Frontier Bank, in Eagle Pass, where a lot of the money for drugs, for illegal exports, and for supporting the Contras in Cuba, all went through there.
Oh, yeah.
And Marcello was in that bunch.
I got you.
One of his men was on the board of directors of the bank.
Oh, my gosh. So he figures prominently in this whole thing.
He does. But I'm pretty well satisfied that the mafia had nothing to do with the assassination itself.
Uh-huh.
I mean, one day one of them called me and said, look, we didn't take out Kennedy. But now Ruby, well, that's another story.
Right.
Take care of Ruby.
This James Files name comes up recently as he's trying to take credit for being the shooter behind the picket fence. Is there any credibility there?
There is. In fact, I have been working with a fellow who is going to talk about that and bring it out. He's still working on his book, and it's up to him for right now. And in fact, he's speaking today.
Right. Okay.
And he's convinced that Files
he was part
involved.
of it.
Yeah.
Well, I listened to a 2-hour video on YouTube of James Files, and I know a lot of the people involved through one source or another, and I could not find a lie in that 2 hours. And he described his relationship and so forth pretty well to individuals that were involved. It looked like to me.
His financier, his producer, is a guy named Wim Dankbar over in Europe.
Okay.
And we've talked with him. He wanted to come with us.
Right.
And we couldn't make a deal back 15 years ago.
Okay.
But this is all very real.
Okay.
And Files had some problems with his story.
Okay.
But this fellow I'm working with says they're okay.
Yeah.
It's coming out. Out.
I've studied it. I was on Prodigy for a while when Prodigy was there, and there was a group, an individual out of Washington D.C., Virginia area, that just wrote too many posts. So they've been at discrediting the JFK assassination for years. The truth of it.
Oh, they were saying it was a one-man deal.
That's got deep cover of government operations ongoing on this.
Oh,
because every 2 or 3 years there'll be someone that writes a book that says Lee Harvey Oswald did it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
It's just a bunch of propaganda.
Well, I laugh at it. They try so hard.
They trot some guy out
of the population, and they can't do it.
And I've even interviewed that Italian guy that wrote Helter Skelter. Really? He wrote a book like that too one year.
He was so bad. The
Bugliosi?
lawyer. Yeah, Bugliosi. I like it. The Italian guy. Yeah, that's the one.
I interviewed him years ago on this.
Well, all he could do is pound on the table. I mean, I can think of.
Yeah, he was paid big money to do.
Yeah.
They earned just.
Well, he wrote a book that we refer to as a doorstop.
Right.
It's a great big book. And
that's what you use it for. Right. And then about about 2 or 3 years ago at Texas Book Festival, they brought in a former, a retired newspaperman from Dallas. I forget his name, and then also one of the counsels to the Warren Commission. And it was interesting. The counsel that testified about the magic bullet theory,
Yeah.
he talked about that at the Texas Book Festival at the C-SPAN tent, which was live broadcast. And then after we went to questions and answers from the floor, the first question to him was, "Mr. So-and-so, could you elaborate on the magic bullet theory?" Like, you know, we're not believing that anymore. And the crowd was sort of laughing at a very subdued level, you know, like, yeah, sure, you know.
Well,
so the public is waking up.
But I like to tell any group I talk to that 70% of America knows there was a conspiracy. And what has really kept all the attempts to change it where it is, everybody's still believing it, is the integrity of America.
Right.
I mean, most people, you get lambasted all the time about one man.
Right.
And you change your mind.
Right.
But America, we're not going to be fooled. And you look at
I think this Trump election shows that.
Yeah, that's it.
They reasserted. They reasserted that they want truth versus a bunch of propaganda.
You're hitting the nail on the head. Yeah.
And that's what we got. Well, now Trump's got some ticks on him, just like anyone, you know.
Oh yeah.
But if he accomplishes 3 or 4 of the main goals that he set out, I think it'll be a successful administration.
It should be.
And immigration, things like that, which if we and get jobs and get some tax relief and so forth. I think if we get a little help too for the ladies with their child care, you know.
I think he'll go with that. Yeah.
And I think Ivanka came up with that. So he's open to helping too some people
open,
that need it.
I think. Yeah. He's
not totally cold-hearted, right-wing, not going to give you anything type of guy.
No.
So I think that's going to...
He doesn't tell anybody go out and inherit a fortune.
Right. Do you have any closing comments to our interview?
I think that the main thing is, first of all, we're seeing history as it develops here. People don't realize it, but the conspiracy theory is going down the drain if it's not gone already. And I think it's going to be a lot better country because we'll go back to the integrity that I've said all along.
Right.
It's why we know better than when we're told it was a conspiracy.
Right. We have a gut feeling sometimes. We may not know all the details, but we just have feelings sometimes that are right.
That's why I call it integrity.
Yeah, integrity. That gut feeling. Well, thank you very much, Barr McClellan, for being with us. And we just appreciate all your time and work and all your dedication to truth and your fine book.
Well, thank you. It was fun.
Okay. Thank you a lot. Okay. Bye-bye.